Preview season moves forward, and today it's all about the Michigan State Spartans. How do they push forward in year two of the Jonathan Smith era? What do they look like? How do they improve or maybe regress off of last year? We'll talk about all that and more here on today's edition of Armchair Analysis. Again, preview season rolls on, and you can find every other preview we've done so far, all the way from Florida State back on June 1st to today, almost 3 weeks in now. Again, talking about Michigan State. If you haven't checked out the other videos, please do. Again, that playlist is on the channel, and these previews all look relatively the same. We just talk about what they were, what they look to be on paper, and what we project them to be, what we predict them to be. Well, what I predict them to be. There's not really a we business here. What do I predict this team to be? I'm excited to get into it, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun, once again, with this Michigan State team. So make sure you stick around if you're a Michigan State fan. Remember, you know your team better than I do, especially in a lot of cases. And understand that this team was a lot of fun to really look through and try to figure out who they were. I went a different direction on how I approach these and how I approach the research that went into it. So we'll see if this kind of turns into something a little different, but who knows? Stick around, let me know what you think at the end. If this, especially those of you who have been around and watched multiple of these videos, let me know if this format works a little better. It's not much different, but if it works just a little better than previously, a little more detail. As for that, let's not waste any more of your time. To talk about the future, or to talk about even the present, we must talk about what we've seen, and that is the 2024 season. This is a team that went 5-7 last year, 3-6 in Big Ten play. They were not necessarily great, but they were not bad. They had some turnover issues and had trouble offensively, really moving the football, scoring, and a lot of it has to do with just overall fallout, I think. This was not a program that really had a good sense of direction following Mel Tucker's kind of, I don't want to say random, but untimely firing. And Jonathan Smith comes in, and the cupboard's kind of bare. The team did not look good. I don't know that they still look great, but they have some things to really be excited about, and we'll talk about them. This is a team that averaged under 20 points per game last year, 19.3 to be exact. That was 123rd in college football. Negative 0.7 turnover margin per game, that's 117th. The good thing that we saw was 26.1 points per game allowed. This was a really, I don't want to say a great defense or even a good defense, but they were solid and they improved, and they had some guys that they really liked, and they have guys that are coming back that they really like, and I think are going to make this a little bit more interesting as we go through the course of this video, talking about some of those guys, some of the transfers they bring in. There's a lot of things here that I think are going to make this team better, and there's a lot of things here that I think are going to make this team make us wonder. We got to wait and see kind of approach to it. As for recruiting and transfer portal, this is a number 28 transfer portal class in college football, number 57 recruiting class in college football. The recruiting is down for Michigan State. It's been down for a few years, and I don't know whether it's an NIL problem, whether it's just a lack of consistency in the coaching staff. Hopefully Jonathan Smith, if you're a Michigan State fan, hopefully Jonathan Smith sticks around and ultimately starts kind of putting together the same way he was at Oregon State, coaching teams up and playing above the skill level or even talent level over the next couple of years. Brian Lindgren returns as the offensive coordinator. Really think that he's got a good opportunity here to push forward, especially in the development of Aiden Childs, who is certainly going to be the starter. And the biggest thing, again, is taking care of the football. So one thing and the one place that he just did not get it done last year. The running back room's a little different. Of course, they bring in Elijah Tolliver coming over from Sacramento State. Brandon Tolis is going to be back as well. The wide receiver room, the receiving room in general is going to be led, I think, by Jack Velling. Going to be the tight end this season, expected to be the starter, and he's a big deal to this team. I think he's going to be a big deal to the offense as a whole. But then you got Nick Marsh returning to the offense, a sophomore this year. I think he was one of the more underrated freshmen last year at wide receiver. Obviously, when you're in a class of Ryan Williams and Jeremiah Smith, amongst a few others, but those two specifically, you're going to feel like you get overlooked. Nick Marsh is a guy that I think is going to break out a little bit this year, kind of write his own story. Amari Kelly comes over from Middle Tennessee State, but he also has made a previous stop at Auburn as well. You kind of know how I feel when it comes to third schools and players at their third school. Amari Kelly's a guy that I think the time down at MTSU is going to help him in the future. And I think he's going to be, I don't want to say I don't think he's going to be an impact player or a star, but I think he's going to be a good role player to this offense. And then you got Krishan McCray, a similar story here, kid coming out of Kent State, trying to transfer out and put himself on the map a little better. I mean, you go from a school that went 0-12 to a Big Ten program. No matter how you look at it, it's a big deal. I think Krishan McCray is going to be an interesting name to watch going forward this season. Offensive line, they bring in 3 transfers that are projected to be starters. And, man, I wish I would have kept it pulled up because it would help me when I only write a last name in. It would help me know who I'm talking about. So Matt Golban, 40 games, 22 of those have been starts. That was at Wake Forest. That's where he's coming from. He's projected to be the starting center. Luka Vincic is coming over from Oregon State. He's appeared in 20 games over 2 seasons at Oregon State. And then you have Connor Moore coming over, 31 games at Montana State. 3 guys with a lot of experience. And truth be told, I have really I don't have a lot of skepticism towards this offensive line. I think they're going to be okay, solid maybe would be the right answer. I don't think they're going to be great, and I don't think they're going to be a top 25 unit. I don't think I would put them that far. But I think that they have potential, especially if they can get things together and work together well, to be at least capable and a unit that takes care of Aiden Childs, allows the run game to get going, which then will open up other opportunities. Looking over at the defense, which is the unit that I'm actually most excited about, and it's led by Joe Rossi, of course, the defensive coordinator. 8 of 11 players come back from the 2024 roster. Continuity is a big deal in college football, especially on defense. Joshua Eaton's coming over from Texas State to play cornerback. I have a lot of, I don't want to say high hopes for him, but I definitely think that that's going to be a good addition when we look back at the transfer portal. Grady Kelly and David Santiago. Kelly coming from Florida State, Santiago coming from Air Force. 2 guys that are going to attach to the defensive line. Be interesting to watch how they move forward. I think the biggest thing that we can talk about with Michigan State this year, which we could not talk about last year, is overall depth. I think the depth of this roster, especially defensively, is improved from last year. And it's going to help them when they have these sub packages come in to really figure out who the guys you can look to are throughout the course of the season. Returning leaders from last year, it's going to be Nikai Martinez, the leading tackler and the leading interception producer last year. 51 total tackles combined, assisted and solo, and then 2 interceptions last season. The returning sack leader is Alex Van Sumeren, 1.5 sacks. But Alex Van Sumeren is a guy that, in my mind, popped off the page immediately as somebody that we are going to be looking for. And truth be told, I'm expecting to make a bigger difference this year. I think he's going to be a starter and a guy who we're really talking about as the anchor point in the middle of that defensive line. You also have Quindarius Dunagan, 4 tackles for loss last year. He's projected to be one of the guys coming off the bench. I would not be surprised if he's a starter by the time we get to the season. That part's hard to say. Had a few guys force some fumbles. Overall, the biggest thing here is Aiden Childs taking better care of the football. The defense forcing some turnovers, being more aggressive. You'll notice that that's kind of a term I'm using with a lot of teams. They're just kind of in the middle of the road. And when we look at Michigan State, the biggest thing is that their schedule is not light at all. I mean, I'm sitting here looking at it, and to be honest, I thought I was going to go into this and have Michigan State as probably a 7 to 8 win team. And in reality, I found it more difficult than I thought it would be. Truthfully, I found this to be very difficult for me. So, with that said, let's go ahead and talk about this schedule real quick and just kind of pull it up and walk through what the schedule looks like. As you see on the screen, it kicks off with 3 games that I'm not going to say are tough, but I'm not going to say they're difficult either. I just said the same thing. I'm not going to say they're tough, but I'm not going to say they're easy, is what I was trying to say. Western Michigan. Interesting team. I don't really think this is going to be upset city type storyline. It will be interesting, though. This will be kind of the first test for the defense. Blake Bozma is going to be a guy that we're really looking for, tight end at Western Michigan. See if he can make a few plays. See how this Western Michigan offense produces and plays. And it'll tell us kind of where Michigan State is. Give us that little bit of a starting point, I would say, maybe would be the word to use. At Boston College, this game being in East Lansing, I think gives them a little bit more of an advantage, the Spartans, that is. Going to be an interesting game nonetheless. Youngstown State, that's a tough FCS team. I don't know if they're necessarily a playoff team in the FCS this year, but they're a tougher team, a team that's consistently pretty solid. It's 3 games that, I'm not going to call Boston College a tune-up game, but it's 2 non-conference games that are kind of, okay, we know what we typically are against these 2 types of teams. What are we this year? And then your road games. You look at these road games, and these are the games that are 50-50 games that are getting tilted in the opponent's direction immediately. USC on the road, Nebraska on the road, Indiana on the road, Minnesota, Iowa. Like, those 5 are really brutal games to play on the road, given the fact that your home games include Michigan, Penn State. It is not an easy schedule whatsoever. Now, we can talk about UCLA, we can talk about Maryland, and truth be told, we don't really know what some of these other teams are going to be. Do we expect Indiana to repeat last year's performances? I would say the answer is yes. There's not a lot of things leaving. This is still a pretty solid team. Michigan, do we truly know that Bryce Underwood answers the offensive questions? We can say that we think so because what we've heard, what we've kind of come to expect, but we don't know. Minnesota is a questionable team, but I'm projecting them as one of the best running back rooms in college football. I'm projecting them as just a really solid team in college football. Same, Penn State, we're expecting to be at least a national contender, a CFP team. Iowa, I think, is a team that we don't really know a lot about. What are they going to be? But this game being in Kinnick makes it a little more difficult. And at the end of the year, nonetheless. USC, Nebraska, 2 road games. 2 teams are expected to be improved themselves this year. It's just not easy. And then let's not forget, UCLA brings in Nico Iamaleava. Maryland is going to be, at the end of their season, trying to find something to push for. And look, I predicted Maryland to go 2-10, and I know it, but that does not mean that they will go 2-10, first off. Secondly, that doesn't mean they won't improve over the course of the year. They just have a tough schedule. This is not, by any means, a schedule where you're going to walk out of here as a playoff team, especially not at Michigan State's level right now. But it's how you approach it and how you get through, especially this stretch of 5 games. I'm going to use my mouse over here, which you can't see. I'm surprised. Normally it's been on the screen. But when you look at the 5 games from Indiana to Iowa, that stretch of games and how you get through those, and to be honest, let's just talk about the entire Big Ten slate. How you get through them, how those teams shape out throughout the course of the year, really does determine the Michigan State season. Let's go ahead and predict. Western Michigan, I talked about it. I think Western Michigan, this is just going to be a game where you find out who you are and kind of see what this defense is together. I'm giving Michigan State the win. You get Boston College at home. By the way, now my mouse wants to show up, so that's fun. You get Boston College at home. This is going to be an interesting game. Truly a game to figure out who both of these teams are. Boston College really doesn't know who they're going to be this year. Neither does Michigan State, but this is a game that I think that home field advantage is going to matter, and I think that the overall experience and working together matters a little bit. And I think Michigan State just got a little more continuity. They're going to get the win here. They'll beat Youngstown State, even though I don't think it's going to be an easy FCS game, but it's going to be a win nonetheless. You go on the road to USC, and this is where things start getting difficult. Jaden Mayava is going to be the starting quarterback. He's going to have about a month at this point, and some change even from when he took over last year. A lot more experience than you would have expected him to have going into this season. I think that's going to turn some heads. I think this game being out in LA is going to change some minds. Now, granted, that having been there, it's not a terrible environment. It's not as bad as people make it out to be, but it certainly doesn't pull the crowds that you would expect. I don't think it really matters. LA Memorial Coliseum, I think they'll be ready for this game, especially this specific Big Ten game. What I do believe is their opener as well. I'm taking USC to get the job done at home. You follow that up with a road game against Nebraska after a bye week, no less. And sure, that's a big deal. That helps a little bit. I just think this Nebraska team is better. And I think that it starts with the quarterback position. I think Dylan Raiola is better than Aiden Childs, has been more consistent than Aiden Childs. But I think this Nebraska team truly is primed to make I don't want to say a big run, but an interesting run through this season. Taking Nebraska to get the win in Lincoln. Come back home and face UCLA the week after that. And I think that's going to be a chance to maybe get some momentum, get right going into the second half of the year. Go 4-2 in the first half with a big win over Nico Iamaleava and this entire UCLA team. I'm not hateful to this UCLA team. There's not a lot that it kind of reminds me. UCLA kind of reminds me of Michigan State. We'll talk more about that when I get to them in the preview cycle. But they remind me a lot of this Michigan State team because it's players that we expect to improve and it's a team that we expect to improve. But how much with the schedule they play and how much truly does a change at quarterback mean to this team? All that's going to be kind of to be determined as we go. You start the second half of the season with a road game against Indiana. I think that this game still could go either way. I'm not going to sit back and just say, oh, Indiana is a lock to win this game. But it does not help that this one's on the road. I think that this is one of those games where you kind of learn who Indiana is, who they've already been probably through this point in the season. Taking Indiana to get the win here. Rivalry game, they're going to want to beat Michigan. They should want to beat Michigan. Right now, who doesn't? I just don't know that it's going to happen. I don't know that they're more talented. I don't know that they're more physical. And the other thing that gets me here with this Michigan team is what we've seen so far from Wink Martindale in one season was working things out, testing things, adjusting. And the final 4 games of the year, to include that Indiana game, were so much better than the first half of the year. Things started to come together a lot and really well for the Michigan defense. I think that paired up with what we'll expect by this point in the season from Bryce Underwood, from the Michigan offense. Are they going to be the best offense in the country? No. Are they going to be top 25? Probably not. But I think that this run game, paired up with Bryce Underwood, paired up with the receiving room that is there, the offensive line that returned, this Michigan team is going to be just a little bit too much. I'm going to take the Wolverines there. So now you sit at 4-4. On the road against Minnesota, first weekend in November. First Saturday in November. First day in November, as a matter of fact. This game has a lot of implications to it. The physical factor is what's going to get me here, the same way it did with the Michigan team and the Michigan game just the week before. Physicality is going to rule this game, and I think Minnesota's got it, and they've got plenty of it. I'm going to take the Gophers to win this game. You come out of the bye week, you get Penn State. They're in East Lansing. I just don't think that you're there. I don't think that you're able to compete with the best of the conference. I'm taking the Nittany Lions to win. Then you go on the road to Kinnick Stadium, and I think right here it's just a matter of momentum, and it's not on your side. Taking Iowa to beat Michigan State here. You sit at 4-7 going into the final game of the year facing Maryland. This game's going to be played in Ford Field and Detroit. hence why it says versus and not at or left alone. But if you saw my Maryland video, which I already talked about, I have them going 2-10. It's not out of the question for that to be possible. But and that does mean, yes, I am taking Michigan State to win this game and improve to 5-7, 2-7 in conference. Hear me out when I say this. This could 100% be an 8-win team. I'll buy it. As a matter of fact, I would like to buy that stock personally. The over/under sits at 5.5. I like them to get to the over. I really do. I also like them. I don't like them to win the Big Ten. I don't like them to win a national championship, which you see on the screen as I have it for every team. The things that I like the most here are my expectations of improvement for this Michigan State team, which I think are going to be there. I think that there are opportunities, and they are going to present themselves multiple times. This Michigan State team might end up being similar to recent years Nebraska teams, where they just lose a lot of one-score games. I wouldn't be surprised. And I also wouldn't be surprised if they win a couple one-score games, and maybe that pushes them over the top, puts them in a bowl game at the very least. And I would think that that's the goal for Michigan State football right now. It's not about being a Big Ten championship contender right now. They want to get back there because they were just there. The 2010s, they were there consistently. The Mark D'Antonio era, especially through the 2010s, they were in the conversation consistently. The goal is to get back there, but to start doing that, you have to be able to win in recruiting. To win in recruiting, you have to be able to have a coaching staff that sticks around, first off. And then on top of that, you have to win football games. They have not been in position to win football games because they were left, again, with a really bare cupboard. They're putting depth back together. They're putting really a football team back together to be competitive week in, week out, even with the best in the conference. And I think we are going to see that a lot this year. I don't think, again, I'm predicting 5-7, and I know that's probably the floor for this team. As a matter of fact, I would be willing to say that there is not a chance that they lose more than 7. But what I will say is that they are playing a lot of teams that are expected to improve this year. They're playing 2 teams that were in the College Football Playoff last year. And they're playing one of the most recent national champions in Michigan, obviously, as they do every year. This is not going to be easy. It's going to be rough, and there are going to be some tough losses, but I think that this year is a character-building year. If you stick around and you give Jonathan Smith a true chance to succeed here, there's no reason that Michigan State cannot be pushing for playoffs. Maybe not in 2026, but 2027 and beyond, I wouldn't be surprised. It's all schedule dependent and depends on who you get and who you have to play. If you have to play Penn State, Michigan, Ohio State, and Oregon every year, then maybe not. But this schedule in 3 years, Michigan State, if you give this schedule to Michigan State in 3 years, you can give them the same layout. This might be a 9 or 10 win team. I say might be because I can't predict the future. I don't have a crystal ball as much as I would like to. This is a fun football team. This is going to be a good, interesting year. I think that take solace in the fact that you are competing week in and week out, that you are not just going to go out on the field and get your ass kicked. Because, that's been happening over the last few years. You're not going to just walk out on the field and get blown off the field. You may lose like that to Penn State. That's probably the one game I really foresee not sticking around in, if any. Because, again, I can't say that Michigan's going to be that good. I certainly don't believe Indiana just mollywops anybody at any given week. And I don't think there's anybody else that's that good either. So it's interesting. Again, this is anywhere from 5 to 8 in my mind. 5 just felt right to me, and that's where we landed. So My paragraph for this team is this. There's things to like about this team. Still a lot of unknown with development of the roster, and it's a tough schedule. Again, the schedule in 3 years, all these teams will change. Maybe it looks a little different. But for right now, that's where we sit. Again, if you're a Michigan State fan, as always, go ahead. Say your piece. I know. I'm saving this for the end of the video because I didn't want to start it off. I didn't want to point out the elephants in the room. I know what's behind me. I know that you see this blanket here. I know that you see this helmet. I know that you see these things. I'm not stupid, okay? Maybe a little. But I'm not stupid in the sense of I'm aware. I'm self-aware of what is behind me and what is displayed. And I understand that some things I say are going to be looked at and people are going to say, this guy's biased. This guy has a very clear allegiance to a team. What I will tell you is that what I do on Saturdays does not affect what I do here. This is an honest take, and I give an honest take on everybody. I've picked Ohio State to beat Michigan, I think, 3 times now in the last 4 years. The 2 road games, and in 2021, I even picked Ohio State. I was not correct in any of those 3 games. And I genuinely meant those from the picking perspective. Because why would I want to be wrong? The answer is I don't. Integrity and being honest about what I believe and what I see means more to me than fandom. I mean, it just does, especially here. On Saturdays during the games. So be it. That's how it's always been. But to be honest, who doesn't root for the things that they predict at the same time? If Michigan State still wins 8 games, I'm going to be thrilled because I said, hey, look, it could get there. Is that what I predicted? No. And I'm going to be wrong 100%. But at least I knew it was a possibility, and I didn't just ignore it. So just understand that, hear what I said, and take it for what it was, and understand that was honest truth when it came to my mind. That's all that really matters to me, is that you understand that. I hope you guys did enjoy the video, though. Please leave a like, comment down below. Like I said, Michigan State fans, you know your team better than I do. Maybe there's somebody that I missed in this preview. It's possible. Go ahead. Go in there. Tell me in those comment sections. Tell me who I missed, who I didn't talk about, who should be getting more love, maybe who shouldn't be getting as much attention on this roster this season. It's possible there's somebody I overhyped a little bit. Nonetheless, it's all appreciated. All welcome down in the comments. Even shit talk, I don't really care. You can do that in the comments as well. It don't bother me. Tomorrow, we got Vandy, and what a good time to talk about Vanderbilt after Diego Pavia goes on and just lights up his opponents that he's beaten, lights up the Big Ten. I mean, what a great team to follow up a Big Ten school than Vanderbilt. So we'll be talking about Vandy next year. Well, it will be next year, I suppose, next season. But we'll be talking about Vanderbilt tomorrow. After Vanderbilt, it's all about the Belichicks. North Carolina is on the board for Sunday, and I'm really excited to talk about North Carolina. I think that's a team that they have some good potential. They obviously have a really good coaching staff. What will they make of it? That's to be determined as well. After North Carolina, our next Big 12 school, Cincinnati, and that'll be Monday. So those are the next 3 days of content. Again, leave a like if you got this far, subscribe. All that helps. The goal is to hit 100 by the end of the month of June. I think we can do it. I know we're 20 away right now, but I think we can do it, and we can do it with your help. It's all free. Really doesn't do anything other than help you see these videos more often. And again, we've got plenty more previews to do. We're doing all Power 5 teams. And then we're getting into even more preview season where we talk about conference predictions, playoff predictions, Heisman predictions. We got all kinds of stuff coming up here on the channel. And then, of course, during the season, I do a game preview every day and talk about other news and things going on around the country. So stick around. It's going to be a fun year. I'm excited for it. Hopefully you guys are too. With that said, we'll see you tomorrow. Vandy, you're up next.